Stop telling yourself you want a good life. You do not, at least not yet, not in the way that matters. If you truly wanted it, your days would look different. Your choices would look different. Your excuses would no longer survive in your own ears. Desire is cheap. Everyone says, I want more money, more peace, more freedom, more respect. The world is full of men who want. Very few decide. The moment of decision is not a sentence you speak. It is a line you cross. Before that line, your life is ruled by moods, habits, and outside influences. After that line, your life begins to bend around a single governing intention. When you truly decide that you will have a good life, everything begins to shift. Not because the world suddenly becomes kind, but because you stop living as a divided man. You know this already in small things. Think back to the few times in your life you made a clear, final decision. There was a day when you said, I will no longer tolerate this, and you meant it. Perhaps you left a harmful environment. Perhaps you broke from a destructive habit. Perhaps you completed a difficult task that had lingered for months. Notice what happened. The moment you truly decided, your energy changed. You stopped arguing with yourself every hour. You stopped asking, should I? And began asking, how will I? You found strength you had not felt before. That was no accident. It was the power that is released when a mind ceases to hesitate. Your life until now has been full of half decisions. I should save more. I ought to study. I really must take my health seriously. These are not decisions. They are wishes dressed in serious words. A decision carries a cost you feel. It demands that something be given up, that something be endured, that something be changed now. Not when it is convenient, not when you feel like it, but now. Most men avoid that pain and then lie to themselves, insisting that they have not had the chance yet. The truth is harsher. They have not yet told themselves the truth about what they are willing to give up. A good life, one of purpose, strength, inner peace, and sufficiency, does not come to the man who only envies it. It comes to the man who rearranges his entire inner world around it. When you genuinely decide, you begin to act as if no other outcome is acceptable. You may still be afraid. You may still be uncertain. But you no longer permit your fear and uncertainty to govern the final choice. You say, I will build a good life even if I must begin in the dust, even if no one believes me, even if it takes years. That tone is different. Life can read that tone. Your subconscious mind can read that tone. Understand this clearly. Your subconscious mind has been ruled for years by the real decisions you made long ago, usually in silence. Perhaps you decided, I am not worthy of much. Perhaps you decided, people like me never rise. Perhaps you decided, if I do not shine quickly, I am a failure. You may not remember making these decisions, but their effects surround you. They speak through your hesitation, your sudden quitting, your refusal to attempt anything that might expose you. As long as those hidden decisions stand, no amount of surface desire for a good life will override them. So the first shift that occurs when you truly decide is internal. You revoke the old vows you made in shame and fear. You stand before yourself and say, I no longer accept the belief that I am meant to live small. I no longer accept the idea that my past defines my ceiling. I no longer accept the habit of expecting the worst. This is not a speech for others to admire. It is a declaration made in the privacy of your own mind, repeated until it sinks into the deeper layers of your being. You are not begging the universe. You are informing your own subconscious. There will be a new order here. Once that declaration is made with sincerity, you will notice the second shift. Your tolerance changes. The man who is not truly decided will tolerate almost anything. Wasted hours, toxic company, confused thinking, shabby effort because he has no standard beyond comfort. The man who has decided cannot tolerate those things anymore. They begin to repel him. You will find yourself growing irritated with habits you once excused, with people you once let distract you, with conversations that go nowhere. That irritation is not anger at the world. It is your new standard waking up. You will begin to see that every day, from morning until night. You are either strengthening the decision for a good life or undermining it. There is no neutral ground. When you rise late without intention, drifting from one impulse to the next, you confirm the old vow. My life is something that happens to me. When you get up with a definite purpose, even if small, and honor it, you confirm the new vow. My life is something I shape. The acts themselves may be simple, a walk, a page of notes, an hour of study, a deliberate conversation, but they carry immense meaning. They are the proof you present to your own mind that you are not merely talking. Here is where most men go wrong. They try to change their lives with large occasional efforts instead of small daily ones. They want one grand gesture, one dramatic moment where the world sees their new seriousness. That desire is pride disguising itself as ambition. Real transformation is quieter. A decision for a good life shows itself in the unglamorous hours when nobody is watching. It shows itself when you choose to complete the task you started instead of leaving it half finished. It shows itself when you choose to keep your word, even when the promise feels inconvenient. It shows itself when you direct your thoughts back to your aim instead of letting them wander endlessly. You have been waiting for motivation. Motivation is a poor master. It visits when conditions are pleasing and disappears when they are not. A man who is serious about a good life cannot be ruled by something so unreliable. He must be ruled by decision. Decision does not ask, do I feel like it? It says, this is what we do now, and then does it. When you live this way for even a short period, you discover something startling. Motivation begins to follow action, not precede it. Energy comes after commitment, not before. You have been waiting for a feeling that was waiting for you. There is another shift that occurs. Your relationship with time changes. The man who has not decided throws his time at anything that dulls his discomfort. He will surrender days to idle chatter, to trivial diversions, to worrying over things he cannot control. Time, to him, is something to get through. The man who has decided sees time as building material. He begins to ask of each hour, what am I constructing here? A stronger mind? A clearer plan? A healthier body? A better skill? Or more regret? This question does not make him rigid. It makes him awake. He no longer kills time because he understands that time is in truth killing him or creating him. But do not misunderstand. A decision for a good life does not mean you will live under constant strain. It means your rest becomes intentional. The man who has not decided collapses because he has been resisting his own conscience all day. His rest is not truly rest, it is escape. The man who has decided works when it is time to work and rests when it is time to rest without guilt. His rest renews him because he knows he has honored his purpose. That sense of alignment is a form of peace you have rarely tasted. As you continue in this new direction, you will notice a further shift. The quality of your thoughts begins to change. Before decision, your mind is a marketplace where every passing fear and trivial desire sets up a stall. You move from stall to stall, buying a little anxiety here, a little fantasy there, a little jealousy in the corner. There is no order, only reaction. After decision, you begin to take control of what is allowed to remain. A thought arises that says you will probably fail again. Instead of agreeing, you examine it. Is this thought helping me build the life I have decided to build? If not, you refuse to feed it. You replace it with a thought chosen by you. I may fail again, but I will improve. I will not stop. My direction is fixed. This is not pretending reality is always pleasant. It is refusing to let self-destructive ideas run your inner world. A good life does not grow out of a mind that insults itself all day. It grows out of a mind that disciplines itself. You would not allow a stranger to stand over you from morning to night, calling you useless and doomed. Yet you have allowed your own thoughts to do exactly that. A man who has decided draws a line. He still hears those inner voices at first, but he does not kneel before them. He answers them. That is the beginning of mastery. You will also find that your environment starts to shift, not by magic, but by the new choices you make from this deeper decision. The company you keep may change. Some people will feel restless around your new seriousness because your decision exposes their own lack of one. They preferred you when you were easy to predict, easy to distract, easy to keep at their level. When you begin to guard your time, to say no to empty diversions, to talk more about building and less about complaining, they will either rise with you or drift away. Do not chase those who choose to drift. Bless them silently and continue. At the same time, you will attract other kinds of people, those who are also building, also refining, also deciding. They may be few, but they will strengthen you. One conversation with such a person can be more valuable than a year among the drifting. When you speak of aims, they do not roll their eyes. They lean in. When you describe your struggles, they do not mock. They nod with understanding and share their own. This is not accidental. A serious decision alters the kind of company you seek and accept, and that company in turn either accelerates or slows your progress. Let us be direct. A good life cannot be built in isolation from principle. You cannot decide truthfully that you want a good life while clinging to crooked ways. Dishonesty, manipulation, laziness, envy, these cannot form the bones of a satisfying existence. You may achieve some outward success with them, but inwardly you will be at war. When you really decide, you begin to throw these poisons out. Not all at once, perhaps, but relentlessly. Each time you catch yourself exaggerating to impress, you stop. Each time you are tempted to take what you did not earn, you refuse. Each time you feel the old impulse to tear another person down to feel taller, you silence your tongue. You are not doing this to appear virtuous. You are doing it because you finally understand that a life built against the laws of truth and justice cannot stand without tormenting its builder. You want a good life, not merely a rich one, not merely a notable one. A good life requires a conscience that can sleep. The day you truly decide, your conscience becomes your ally instead of your accuser. It will no longer be the voice that shames you after the act. It will become a voice that warns you before the act. If you listen, it will save you from many pains. You may be thinking, all this sounds heavy. Does a good life require constant effort and vigilance? The answer is yes, at first. Any new pattern demands energy. But there is a reward waiting. What you repeat with intention becomes habit, and habit eventually requires less effort than the chaos it replaced. The man who is accustomed to wasting his evenings must fight to use them well. The man who has learned to invest his evenings in growth would find it painful, even unnatural, to waste them again. The direction of his ease has changed. That is when you know your decision has rooted itself deeply, when the actions that once felt difficult begin to feel natural. Understand this. The moment of decision is powerful, but it is not magic. You will still have days of fatigue, of doubt, of frustration. You will still face setbacks and delays. Do not interpret these as proof that your decision was meaningless. They are proof that you are still alive and still being tested. The difference is that now you have a central line that holds you steady when everything else shakes. Where once a single disappointment could knock you off course for weeks, now it may unsettle you for a day, an hour, or even just a few moments because you know where you are going. That is what this phrase means. When you truly decide you want a good life, everything starts shifting. The world outside may not rearrange itself overnight, but your reactions, your priorities, your standards, your use of time, your choice of companions, your treatment of yourself, these begin to change. Those inner shifts multiplied across days start altering your outer circumstances. Opportunities that would have passed you by now find a man ready to seize them. Doors that were always there, but invisible to your distracted mind, become visible. Solutions you could not see before present themselves because you have trained your gaze to look for them. The question in front of you now is simple, though not easy. Will you finally cross the line between wishing and deciding? Will you stop treating a good life as a prize you might stumble into and start treating it as a condition you will build within and around yourself regardless of how long it takes? That decision will not be made with one dramatic sentence. It will be made by the next thought you allow, the next action you take, the next excuse you refuse to accept from yourself. You do not need anyone's permission to begin. You do not need ideal conditions. You do not need an audience. You need only a clear, honest moment in which you tell yourself, enough. Enough of drifting. Enough of envying. Enough of postponing. Enough of living as if your days were an endless rehearsal rather than the performance itself. When that enough rises from your gut, and not just your lips, you will have taken the first real step. And from that step onward, everything, seen and unseen, will begin to shift in response to a mind that has, at last, truly decided. You say, you have decided. Good. Now, let us see what that means when your feet hit the floor in the morning. A decision that does not reach the first hour of your day is not a decision. It is a mood. The man who truly wants a good life begins to claim his mornings. He no longer rises as a servant of chance, waiting to see what the world will throw at him. He rises as a man with orders for himself. Your first thoughts, your first actions set the pattern for all that follows. If you open your eyes and immediately surrender your mind to worry, to old memories, to vague dread, you have renewed your old contract with confusion. A different man wakes and takes possession of his mind. He does not wait until he feels ready. He speaks to himself with authority. This day belongs to my purpose, not to my fears. He sits up, not as a man dragged from sleep, but as a man summoned. He gives himself a few quiet minutes to remember who he has decided to be. He reviews not his anxieties, but his aims. He does not say, I hope today goes well. He says, these are the things I will move forward today, however slightly. This is not fantasy. It is leadership. You are the only one present at the beginning of your day. If you will not lead yourself then, you will be led by every lesser thing. From the moment you rise, you will notice how many small choices try to pull you back into the old life. Laziness will whisper, lie down a little longer. You will answer, no. A man who wants a good life does not start his day by betraying his own word. Appetite will say, skip the work. Seek comfort first. You will reply, comfort is a servant, not my master. The excuses that once passed freely through your mind must now be challenged. Until you challenge them, they will remain permanent residents. Once you confront them, they begin to lose their authority. This is where many men recoil. They say, it is exhausting to fight myself constantly. But you are not meant to fight yourself constantly. You are meant to fight long enough to change the balance of power inside you. Imagine a small town ruled for years by a careless governor. The people have grown used to disorder. A new governor arrives, serious and just. The first weeks are difficult. Every rule he enforces meets resistance. Every law he writes must be defended. But if he persists, order begins to replace chaos. In time, people obey the law because it feels natural, not because he shouts. Your mind is that town. Your decision is that new governor. Your task now is to hold your post until order takes root. A key part of this order is definiteness. Vague desires do not direct the day. You say, I want a good life. What does that mean in concrete terms? What kind of work are you building competence in? Which skills are you determined to master? What level of health are you aiming for? What amount of savings? What quality of relationships? What inner states of mind, calm, courage, faith, do you intend to cultivate? If you cannot answer these questions clearly, your days will be filled with random motion. You will tire yourself and go to bed feeling as though nothing has moved. Sit down with yourself and write what a good life means to you in detail. Not what others have told you it should mean, but what, in your quiet moments, you know would make your existence meaningful and peaceful. Perhaps a certain kind of work that uses your mind and hands. A home free of constant quarrel. A body that can carry you without pain. Enough wealth to live without fear. Enough wisdom to use that wealth without corruption. A spirit that can meet both joy and sorrow without breaking. Put these things into clear words. A fog cannot guide you. A map can. Once you have this clarity, you must translate it into daily disciplines. A good life is not a single event. It is the result of thousands of days lived in alignment. Ask of each major goal, what is the smallest daily act that would move me toward this? If you seek financial stability, perhaps it is an hour each day devoted to learning your trade more deeply. Another hour devoted to understanding money and managing it wisely. If you seek health, perhaps it is choosing food that strengthens you, walking when you would rather sit, breathing deeply when you feel tense. If you seek a calm mind, perhaps it is setting aside time for reflection, for prayer, for reading sound ideas instead of feeding yourself constant noise. These acts may seem too small to matter, especially in the beginning. But remember, when you decided to live poorly, you did so in small steps too. You did not ruin your strength in a single day. You did it by hundreds of days of neglect. You did not fill your mind with doubt and fear overnight. You did it by listening again and again to thoughts and voices that weakened you. You broke your own word in little things until your mind learned not to take you seriously. If you could build a poor life one small compromise at a time, you can build a good one small victory at a time. As you begin to live this way, something subtle will start to change in your self-perception. You will no longer see yourself purely as the victim of your past failures, but as the author of present improvements. You will look at your day in the evening and ask not, did everything go my way? But did I honor my decisions? That question changes the score. You may have faced setbacks. You may have heard no instead of yes. You may have made mistakes. None of that cancels the fact that you kept your commitments to yourself. That is victory. It is the kind of victory that accumulates. A good life requires that your own respect be restored. You have lost respect for yourself in places where you have broken your own standards. That loss is not permanent, but it will not be reversed with flattery or empty affirmations. It will be reversed when you give yourself new evidence. When you say, tomorrow I will do this, and then you do it, you deposit a coin in the treasury of self-respect. When you say, I will no longer speak to myself in that cruel tone, and you catch and correct yourself, you deposit another coin. Over time, you will find that you can look yourself in the eye again, inwardly, and not feel like a fraud. That feeling cannot be purchased. It must be earned. You will also begin to notice that your patience with shallow pleasures diminishes. Before, aimless talk, idle gossip, and empty entertainment may have filled your hours. Now, they feel thin. This is not because you have become joyless. It is because your taste is changing. The man who has eaten coarse food all his life will be satisfied with it until he tastes something finer. Once he has tasted better, he cannot go back without feeling the difference. As you feed your mind and soul with higher aims, with disciplined study, with meaningful work, the old diversions will lose their charm. You will not need to fight them as fiercely because they will no longer taste as sweet. That change in taste is one of the clearest signs that your decision is genuine. A false decision is made only in the realm of will. It must constantly push against unchanged desires. A true decision, maintained over time, begins to convert desire itself. You will find yourself wanting to do what you once only forced yourself to do. You will want to read instead of argue. You will want to practice your craft instead of boast about it. You will want to honor your body instead of abusing it. The good life ceases to be an external prize and becomes an internal preference. However, do not suppose that the world will congratulate you immediately for this inner shift. Some will be irritated by it. Your seriousness will remind them of their own drift. Your refusal to waste time on empty pursuits will feel to them like an accusation, even if you say nothing. They may tease you, call you rigid, tell you that you are taking life too seriously. Remember, many people would rather you stay where you are so they do not have to reconsider where they are. Do not ask their permission to rise. At the same time, guard yourself against becoming proud. As you begin to change, you may feel superior to those who have not yet decided. That pride is a trap. It will turn your growth into another form of vanity. Instead of using your new strength to lift your own life, you will waste it judging others. A man truly committed to a good life has no time to despise. He recognizes that he too wasted years, that he too delayed, that he too hid from hard truths. He is grateful to have woken up at all. He hopes others will as well. But he does not make their pace his obsession. You must also recognize the role of imagination in your decision. A good life must be seen inwardly before it can be built outwardly. Your subconscious mind is moved not by vague words, but by vivid pictures. When you repeatedly imagine yourself as a failure, as a man who never changes, as someone destined to remain where he is, you are issuing orders to your deeper mind. It obeys by filtering your attention, magnifying evidence that supports those images, and blinding you to opportunities that contradict them. Begin to present your mind with different images. See yourself engaging in disciplined work. See yourself responding calmly to provocation. See yourself turning down a temptation you once always accepted. See yourself living in a home that reflects order rather than chaos, in a body that reflects care rather than neglect, in relationships that reflect honesty rather than pretense. Do not treat these pictures as childish dreams. Treat them as instructions. Pair them with action. When you imagine yourself rising early and then in fact rise early, you connect the image and the reality. The subconscious begins to say, This is who we are now. Of course, there will be days when your old self reappears full of force. You will stumble into the same foolish argument, repeat the same wasteful habit, fall into the same mood of self-pity. The danger in those moments is not the mistake itself. It is the story you tell afterward. If you say, "See, I will never change. This is my true nature. All my effort was a lie," you drag yourself back to your old decision. If instead you say, "Yes, I stumbled in an old pattern, but I recognized it, and I am choosing again," you keep your new decision alive. Falling is not the end. Refusing to stand again is. You must also learn to distinguish between your true self and your patterns. Your patterns are what you have practiced. They are powerful, but they are not sacred. They will protest when you try to alter them. They will shout, "This is just who you are." That is not truth. That is habit speaking. When you have truly decided on a good life, you start treating those patterns as servants to be retrained, not as masters to be obeyed. You look at your temper, your laziness, your fear, and say, "You have had your way long enough. I am not banishing you with one wave. I am weakening you with 100 choices." A good life demands courage because it demands responsibility. Once you admit that your choices matter, you lose the comfort of blaming everything on fate, on family, on the times, on the economy. Those may be real forces, but they are not the only forces. You are one of them. When you truly decide, you step into that arena. You stop asking, "What are they doing to me?" and begin asking, "What am I doing with what they are doing to me?" That shift makes you more powerful and, at first, more uncomfortable. Power always feels uncomfortable to one who has lived without it. Yet, as you practice, that discomfort turns into strength. You start to see that even in unfavorable conditions, there is room to move. Perhaps you cannot change your surroundings immediately, but you can change the way you speak, the way you spend your free hours, the way you handle your earnings, the way you treat your body, the way you relate to others. These adjustments, repeated, begin to chip away at the walls that seemed immovable. The good life is not somewhere far away waiting for everything outside you to be perfect. It begins with the mastery of what is already within reach. Another sign that everything is shifting is this. You begin to feel a quiet sense of direction where before there was only confusion. This does not mean you suddenly know every step ahead. It means you know the next right step. You may not see the entire staircase, but you see the next stone to place your foot on. That is enough. A man who insists on seeing the whole path before he moves will die standing still. A man who accepts that clarity comes with movement will progress with less fear. Your decision to live well turns your attention toward guidance instead of toward obstacles. You become alert to hints, ideas, and opportunities that match your direction. Do not wait for others to confirm your way before you walk it. Most will only understand what you are doing once it has produced visible results. Until then, they will predict failure, misunderstand your intentions, or be too absorbed in their own concerns to take notice. If you need a crowd to cheer every step you take, you are not yet fit for a good life. Learn to draw satisfaction from the act itself, from the knowledge that you are bringing your behavior in line with your values, even if no one praises you. That inner agreement is more sustaining than any applause. Finally, understand that when you truly decide you want a good life, you do not become a different species overnight. You remain human. You will still feel fear. You will still be tempted. You will still face losses and sorrows. The difference is that you no longer surrender to these as masters. You experience them. You acknowledge them. and you continue doing what you know is right. That is the only kind of strength life respects. Not the absence of weakness, but the refusal to let weakness have the last word. You have spent years letting circumstances and old patterns dictate who you are. Your decision marks the beginning of a reversal. From now on, who you are will begin to dictate how you meet circumstances and what patterns you tolerate. That shift will not announce itself with fire and thunder. It will reveal itself in the way you handle the next ordinary day. That is where a good life is won or lost, in the quiet battlefield of repeated, deliberate choices. There is a deeper layer to this decision that few ever touch. It is not enough to arrange your days more wisely or to discipline your habits, as vital as those are. If you want a good life in the truest sense, you must confront what you believe you deserve. Many men work hard, yet secretly believe that joy, abundance, and peace belong to others. They labor with a hidden suspicion that their efforts will ultimately fail. That suspicion leaks into every task, every conversation, every opportunity. It is the unseen hand that pulls them back just as they begin to rise. Until you change that belief, you will work like a slave instead of building like a master. Ask yourself bluntly, do you honestly believe you are allowed to have a good life? Not a perfect life, not a life without challenge, but a life where you prosper, where you are respected, where you enjoy the fruit of your labor without guilt. If your honest answer is no, then every outward improvement you make will fight against an inner refusal. You will sabotage yourself at the very moments that matter most. You will speak poorly when it is time to present your best. You will delay when the door is open. You will choose companions who drain you instead of surroundings that strengthen you. Understand this. The world can offer you opportunities, but if you feel unworthy of them, you will decline in 1,000 subtle ways. Where did this belief come from? Perhaps from a childhood where you were told you would never amount to much. Perhaps from a series of failures that convinced you that hope is foolish. Perhaps from watching others succeed while you remain stuck. Wherever it came from, it is not law. It is a story, and stories can be rewritten. A man who decides he wants a good life must become the author of his own inner story. He must take the pen away from old critics and fearful memories and write something truer, that he is a human being endowed with mind, will, imagination, and the power to grow. Those gifts alone qualify him to seek improvement. You do not need a special sign from the heavens to justify wanting a better existence. The very fact that you can envision one is a hint of your capacity for it. Animals do not dream of a more honorable tomorrow. They react to hunger and danger. You have been given more. To reject that gift by insisting you are meant to crawl when you can walk is a form of ingratitude. You dishonor the possibilities built into you when you settle for a life that numbs you instead of challenges you. A good life begins the moment you accept that your desire for one is not arrogance, but responsibility. If you can do better, you ought to try. Once you begin to believe that you are allowed to have a good life, another shift occurs. You start taking your own mind seriously. You stop treating it as a dumping ground for every anxious or petty thought. You recognize that your mind is the workshop where your future is being shaped. What you dwell upon, you move toward. What you rehearse inwardly, you eventually enact outwardly. If you constantly imagine yourself failing, being rejected, being humiliated, your body will obey those images. You will walk into opportunities already bent under the weight of defeat. A man who has decided to build a good life becomes a guardian at the gate of his imagination. He does not allow every fear to parade itself in vivid detail. When his mind begins to project scenes of failure, he does not surrender to them. He answers, no. I will not sit here and rehearse disaster. I will use this same power to imagine myself acting with courage, speaking with clarity, finishing what I start. This is not fantasy. It is rehearsal. Athletes practice movements before they perform them. Generals study the field before they command on it. In the same way, you must see yourself living in alignment with your decision before you can do it with strength. You may protest, but my life has been full of evidence that I am not capable. Look closer. That evidence is not as final as you think. Many of your past efforts were half-hearted. You were divided inside. Part of you pushed, another part pulled back. You tried once or twice and then surrendered. You did not yet know how to persist beyond the first wave of difficulty. You did not yet understand that failure is a teacher, not a sentence. To use your past as a verdict against your future is to misunderstand what those years were. They were lessons. Painful, yes, but lessons, not chains. The man who truly wants a good life reinterprets his past. He does not lie about it. He rereads it. He says, here I learned what happens when I ignore warnings. There I learned what happens when I seek acceptance over truth. In that season I discovered the cost of laziness. In another, the cost of pride. I will not repeat these blindly. I have paid for this knowledge. I will use it. In doing so, he transforms regret into capital. He stops dragging yesterday as a weight and begins using it as a guide. A good life is not built by pretending you have never erred, but by refusing to waste the sense your errors gave you. This new interpretation will change how you handle present setbacks. When something goes wrong after you have decided to live well, you will be tempted to say, nothing has changed. It is the same story. That is the old belief trying to regain control. Answer it with facts. Ask, am I responding the way I used to? Am I running back to my old habits? Or am I staying present, learning, adjusting, continuing? If your response is different, then the story is different, even if the outward difficulty resembles an old one. Progress is not measured only by results. It is measured by your response. Let us speak of response. A good life cannot be built by a man who reacts to everything but decides nothing. Many spend their days bouncing from one reaction to the next. They are angry because someone offended them, discouraged because something delayed them, excited because something entertained them. Their inner world is like a ship tossed by every wave. The man who has truly decided gradually shifts from reaction to response. The difference is simple but profound. Reaction is automatic and unexamined. Response is chosen. Imagine two men confronted with the same setback, a lost opportunity, a harsh word, a sudden expense. The first reacts. He curses, blames, dramatizes, and then sinks into despair. The second pauses, perhaps breathes deeply, and asks, what is within my control here? What can I repair? What can I learn? What can I do next? The event is the same. The life that emerges afterward is not. A good life belongs to the second man, not because fortune favors him, but because he refuses to let his mind be dragged like a puppet by circumstances. You may say, but this pause is difficult. My temper flares. My fear surges. My tongue moves before my judgment. That is why a decision is needed. When you decide you want a good life, you do not merely decide to earn more or to be praised more. You decide to become master over your internal machinery. You decide that your temper will no longer ruin your relationships. You decide that your fear will no longer choke every chance. You decide that your tongue will no longer be allowed to spill every foolish impulse. These are not small matters. They determine whether your days are peaceful or chaotic. Practice this. The next time something provokes you, do not rush to respond outwardly. Turn inward for a brief moment and speak to yourself as a commander would speak to a soldier. Hold. We are not animals. We choose. Ask one clear question. What response would be consistent with the man I intend to be? Not the man you have been. Not the man your anger wants you to be, but the man you are building. Then act according to that answer, even if every nerve screams otherwise. Each such act is a brick in the house of your new life. You will fail often at first. Do not lose heart. Skill in response is like skill in any art. It is sharpened by repeated attempts. A good life also demands that you change your relationship with work. Many treat work as a punishment to be escaped as often as possible. They dream of a life where they do nothing at all. Such a life, if achieved, would quickly rot them. Work is not the enemy of a good life. Poorly chosen and poorly directed work is. When you truly decide, you no longer accept doing the least you can to avoid trouble while secretly hoping for great reward. You begin to see work as the field in which you prove who you are. Whatever your current position, you can begin to treat it as training. If your task seems small, do it with such care that you gain skill, discipline, and reputation. The habit of excellence does not begin only when you reach your dream role. It begins in the way you sweep a floor, carry out an order, prepare a letter, speak to a stranger. The man who is careless in the minor will be careless in the major. The man who treats every task as beneath him will never be trusted with larger ones. When you decide you want a good life, you stop working only for wages and start working for character. Wages feed you for a week. Character feeds you for a lifetime. This shift in attitude toward work will not go unnoticed. Those around you may sneer, mutter that you are trying too hard, suspect you of hidden motives. Ignore their commentary. Life itself is watching. Habit is forming. When a higher opportunity appears somewhere, perhaps in your current environment, perhaps elsewhere, it will require someone already practiced in diligence and reliability. If you have become that man, you will meet it as one who belongs there, not as an imposter. Your present work is the proof you present in advance for your future chances. A truly good life is not built on selfishness alone. If your every thought is, how can I get more for myself? You may gain some things, but you will not feel whole. The man who has decided to live well eventually recognizes that a portion of his energy, his time, his wealth, his skills must be devoted to something beyond his own immediate benefit. This does not mean neglecting yourself to please everyone. It means understanding that a life that blesses only its owner dries up. A stream that never pours outward becomes a stagnant pool. Ask yourself, whose life becomes lighter because I exist? Perhaps you cannot give much now. That is not the point. The point is that your decision for a good life includes a decision to be of use. You can offer a kind word instead of a harsh one. You can share a lesson you learned through hard experience so that another may avoid your mistake. You can do your work so well that those who depend on it can trust you. You can stand firm in integrity so that others see at least one example that it is possible. A man who lives only for his own comfort will always feel something missing. He has refused one of the deepest sources of strength, the knowledge that his existence matters to others. As you move further along this path, you will encounter a new temptation, to chase too many improvements at once. Your eyes open to how much could be different, and you try to rebuild every part of your life in a single season. You decide to change your body, your income, your entire circle of acquaintances, your habits, your speech, your environment, all at once. This frenzy feels exciting for a brief period, but it cannot last. You exhaust yourself and then give up, telling yourself that a good life is too heavy to carry. Resist that urge. The very intensity that makes you want to transform everything must be harnessed, not scattered. Select a few key fronts on which to advance steadily. Perhaps your health, your craft, your inner discipline. Pour yourself into these consistently. Let other areas improve gradually as a natural result, rather than trying to wrench them all into perfection by sheer will. Remember, a good life is not an instant arrangement of furniture. It is a house built stone by stone. Too many projects begun and abandoned weaken your belief in your own follow-through. Fewer projects sustained rebuild it. One more element must be discussed: rest from self-attack. A man cannot build a good life while he is his own worst enemy. You may think that harshness toward yourself is a form of discipline. It is not. Discipline is clear, firm, and just. Self-attack is cruel, vague, and destructive. When you fail, discipline says, "You did not do what you said you would. Here is what must change." Self-attack says, "You are worthless. You will never change." There is no point. The first leads to correction. The second leads to collapse. You have spoken to yourself in this poisonous way for years. You have called yourself names you would be ashamed to call another man. You have condemned yourself for mistakes while refusing to forgive or learn from them. That habit has done enough damage. A good life requires that you become a fair judge of yourself. Not indulgent, not blind, but fair. When you err, admit it fully. When you succeed, acknowledge it without shrugging it off. When you suffer, allow yourself compassion rather than mockery. You are not a machine. You are a human being in process. Treat yourself as you would treat a younger brother you truly wanted to see grow. As you begin to speak more justly to yourself, something important happens. You stop fearing your own awareness. Many avoid reflection because they cannot bear the way they talk to themselves when they look inward. If every time you examine your day, you are met with insults, you will soon cease examining your day. But if your inner review becomes firm yet respectful, you will seek it. You will want to understand where you can improve, because you know that understanding will not be used as a weapon against you. It will be used as a guide. That desire for honest review is one of the strongest engines of a good life. Finally, understand that this entire process, changing beliefs, disciplining thoughts, guarding response, honoring work, contributing beyond yourself, managing your focus, practicing fair self-judgment, is not a temporary campaign. It is a way of living. You do not do it for a while until you get the life you want, then relax back into old patterns. Old patterns, once welcomed, will reclaim everything they lost. The man who truly decides understands that a good life is maintained, not just attained. He accepts that he will be adjusting, learning, correcting, and refining until his last day. This does not depress him. It gives his days meaning. Your decision, then, is not for a season. It is for a lifetime. You are choosing not just a new set of goals, but a new identity. A man who takes responsibility for his inner world, who honors his word, who uses his mind, who learns from his past, who contributes to others, who responds instead of merely reacts, who builds steadily instead of drifting. That kind of man does not need to fear what the future holds. Whatever comes, ease or hardship, recognition or obscurity, gain or loss, he will meet it with a strength he has forged under his own roof. And that, more than any outer arrangement of circumstances, is what makes a life truly good. There is a moment in every serious life when the question changes from can I change to will I continue? The first question belongs to beginners. The second belongs to builders. You have already proven that change is possible. You have thought different thoughts, acted against old habits, endured days where you chose purpose over impulse. The real issue now is whether you will carry this decision long enough for it to become your nature. A good life is not born from a few inspired weeks. It is carved from years of staying when it would have been easier to drift back. The world will test this, not because it is cruel, but because any structure must be tested before it can be trusted. A bridge is not declared safe until weight has crossed it. In the same way, your decision will not be trusted, not by life, not by your own subconscious, until it has carried you through weight. This is why, after a period of progress, you may meet a season where everything seems to press harder than before. Old problems resurface. New obstacles rise. People disappoint you. Results slow. Your mind whispers, what is the point of all this effort? Things are no easier. Here you stand at a crucial crossroads. The man who only flirted with a good life retreats. He says, see, it did not work. I tried to improve and trouble followed. I will return to my old ways. At least they were familiar. Then he spends the rest of his years explaining to himself and others why nothing really changes. His words decay into poison, and he begins to mock anyone who dares believe otherwise. He becomes a warning. The man who has truly decided responds differently. He may feel the same sting, the same fatigue, the same doubts, but he interprets them differently. He says, of course there is resistance. I am not just rearranging furniture. I am rebuilding the foundation. Of course, old patterns try to reassert themselves. Of course, life applies pressure where I used to crumble. This is not proof that I am failing. It is proof that I am being measured for more. That interpretation does not remove the weight, but it gives you the strength to stay under it long enough to grow. You must understand this law. Anything meant to last must pass through periods where quitting looks reasonable. Without such periods, your conviction would remain shallow. You would walk around with untested confidence, like a soldier who's only marched in parades. A good life cannot be founded on parades. It must be built on the calm that survives conflict. When hardship comes, it exposes whether your decision was a mood or a commitment. If you continue, not because it is easy, not because you are being rewarded in the moment, but because you refuse to betray the man you have chosen to become, you grow roots. During these seasons, you will be tempted to bargain with your decision. You will say things like, I will keep living by principle as long as it quickly improves my circumstances. I will stay disciplined as long as I feel strong. I will honor my word as long as others respond with gratitude. These are not true commitments. They are contracts based on favorable conditions. The moment conditions become unfavorable, the contract is broken. Decide now that your commitment will not rest on feelings or immediate results, but on the simple fact that you have chosen a good life and will not retreat from it. Ask yourself frankly, who would you be if nothing outside you changed for a while? If your surroundings remain the same, your income the same, your relationships difficult, your body still in process, would your decision stand? Or is your so-called decision only a demand placed on the world? Change quickly so that I can feel successful. A genuine decision says, I will live by these principles whether reward comes early or late. I will be a man of order in the midst of disorder. I will build inner wealth even if outer wealth is delayed. That attitude releases a strange power. Life begins to trust such a man. You may not notice it at once, but those around you will. They will sense that you are no longer easily manipulated by praise or pressure. You are becoming steady. When others panic, you pause. When others gossip, you remain silent. When others complain about their lot, you are busy improving yours. Your presence begins to have weight. People may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. Some will seek you out in their own crises because they sense you do not sink as quickly as they do. This is one of the first visible fruits of your decision. A good life radiates stability. Do not underestimate this. Stability is rare. Many appear strong when conditions favor them, but they crack when the wind changes direction. Their confidence lives in their circumstances, not in their character. You are building something different. You are learning to carry your confidence inside your chest, not in the size of your possessions or the noise of other people's approval. A man whose confidence rests there can start again after a loss. He can adapt when plans change. He can endure delay without poisoning his own mind. That is the kind of man the world eventually trusts with larger responsibilities. As this inner stability develops, you will find that your definition of a good life matures. At first, you may have thought mainly of comfort and success. More money, better surroundings, freedom from worry. There is nothing wrong with these desires, but they are incomplete. A truly good life includes those, but it does not kneel before them. It values peace over display, usefulness over reputation, growth over shallow ease. You begin to say, I want wealth, but not at the cost of my integrity. I want recognition, but not at the cost of my honesty. I want comfort, but not at the cost of my strength. That hierarchy matters. Without it, your decision will be compromised the moment you are offered something attractive that violates your deeper principles. With it, you can say no to offers that would glitter in the eyes of a lesser man. You will not accept money that requires you to lie. You will not choose a relationship that demands you abandon your purpose. You will not join ventures that feed your ego but starve your conscience. This may cost you in the short term, but it preserves something far more valuable: the ability to live with yourself. A good life without self-respect is an illusion. Here's another truth. As you continue in this path, the gap between your inner world and your outer world will narrow. Right now, there may be a great difference between how you appear and how you feel. You may act confident but feel unsure. You may speak about plans but secretly doubt your ability to carry them out. The man who has decided begins to reduce this gap. He aims to be the same man in private and in public. He does not present one face to the world and another to his own reflection. This does not mean exposing every weakness to everyone. It means refusing to live as a performer. When you are gentle in public, you practice being gentle in private. When you are disciplined in your work, you do not neglect yourself in your home. When you preach patience to others, you practice it with yourself and those closest to you. Slowly, the masks begin to fall. You feel less and less need to impress because you are too occupied with becoming. That unity between outer and inner life is one of the greatest joys of a good life. You no longer live in constant fear of being found out. There is nothing to expose but a man who is still advancing. Your relationship with time continues to deepen as well. Earlier, you began to see time as building material. Now, you start to see it as a trust. Every day that is handed to you is a piece of wealth that cannot be stored and cannot be reclaimed once spent. The man who has not decided squanders this wealth casually. He acts as if his days are countless and cheap. The man who has decided knows better. He understands that each day used well compounds the value of the next. Each day wasted makes the next heavier to redeem. This awareness does not turn you into a grim machine. It simply removes the illusion that you can postpone your life indefinitely. You stop saying, "One day I will start living well," and recognize that you are living now, for good or ill. You stop promising yourself that some future season will be less busy, less stressful, more suitable for discipline. You accept that there will never be a perfectly arranged stretch of time in which to improve. You either use today with its imperfections and pressures, or you surrender it. A good life is built by those who use imperfect days to make themselves more perfect in character. You may notice that as you honor your time, others begin to honor it as well. You become less available for pointless conversations, for endless complaining sessions, for engagements that have no relation to your purpose. At first, people may be offended. They will say, "You have changed," and they will be right. But over time, those who respect themselves will respect you more. Those who resent your boundaries are often those who benefited most from your previous lack of them. Do not run back to win their approval. Let your new pattern stand. A good life demands one more form of courage, the courage to be misunderstood. When you decide to live by deeper principles, some will misread you. Your silence will be called arrogance. Your focus will be called coldness. Your determination will be called stubbornness. Your refusal to follow shallow trends will be called outdated. If you shape your life to escape every such charge, you will be pulled back into the crowd. The man who truly decides accepts that he will not be fully understood by everyone. He learns to endure misinterpretation without becoming bitter. You do not owe the world endless explanations. You owe it a life well lived. Let your fruits answer those who doubt your roots. If you are wrong in your direction, life will correct you through consequences and conscience. If you are right, time will vindicate you. Either way, you must walk. Standing still to argue serves no one. Direct your energy toward becoming, not toward justifying. Those who need to understand will see in time. Those who refuse to see are not your judges. As you persist, one of the most surprising changes will occur in your attitude toward struggle itself. At first, hardship felt like an insult. You viewed it as proof that something was wrong with you or that life was against you. Now, you begin to see struggle as a signal. Here's a place where I can grow stronger. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me that comfort could not?" That question turns every difficulty into a potential ally. This is not to romanticize suffering. Pain is still pain. Loss is still loss. But when you refuse to let these experiences be meaningless, you rob them of half their power to destroy you. You decide, "If I must go through this, I will not come out the same. I will come out wiser, deeper, more compassionate, more disciplined." That determination is part of what a good life requires, because no life, however well constructed, will be spared all sorrow. The difference lies in what you do with it. You will notice that your standards for what you allow into your mind remain high. You grow more careful about what you listen to, what conversations you join, what ideas you entertain. You understand that your mind is fertile soil. Whatever is planted and repeated will grow. If you permit constant negativity, mockery of discipline, worship of ease, contempt for virtue, and glorification of foolishness, do not be surprised when your own strength weakens. A man who has decided to live well chooses his influences deliberately. He seeks words and examples that challenge him to rise, not excuses to fall. This does not mean hiding from reality. It means refusing to fill your inner world with voices that praise small living and call it wisdom. A good life is not built on constant exposure to cynicism. The cynic claims to see the world clearly, but in truth, he sees only one side of it: the broken, the corrupt, the disappointed. You must also see the courageous, the faithful, the persevering, the patient, the generous. Both exist. Where you focus will shape what you become. As this way of living deepens, gratitude becomes more natural. At first, gratitude may have felt like a moral duty, something you knew you ought to practice. Now, you begin to feel it more spontaneously. You are grateful that you woke up with another chance to improve. Grateful that mistakes did not end you. Grateful that you were forced through seasons that toughened you. Grateful for those who, even if few, supported you in your lowest hours. Grateful that you can think, choose, adjust, and grow. This gratitude is not sentimental. It is strong. It protects you from becoming sour as you age. You will also discover that your sense of competition changes. In your earlier years, you may have measured yourself constantly against others. Who earns more? Who is praised more? Who seems further ahead? This comparison undermined your peace and either inflated you with pride or crushed you with envy. The man who truly decides to live a good life outgrows this. He recognizes that every life has its own course, its own burdens, its own timing. To waste energy on constant comparison is to abandon your own workbench to stare over the fence. Now your competition is with the previous version of yourself. You ask, am I clearer than I was last year? More disciplined than I was last month? Kinder than I was yesterday? More rooted in principle than I was in my youth? This comparison is productive. It keeps you humble because you see how far you still have to climb. It keeps you encouraged because you see how far you have already come. It keeps you focused because it draws your eyes back from others to the only person you can truly improve, yourself. With time, your decision begins to shape not just your own life, but the lives of those around you. Without trying to preach, you become an example. Others notice that you do not explode when things go wrong. They notice that you honor your commitments. They notice that you do not speak ill of those who wrong you. They notice that your daily actions match your declared values. Some will scoff, others will be stirred. So stand where you are now and answer yourself plainly, not with dramatic words, but with clear intent. Do you truly decide to build a good life, or do you prefer the comfort of wishing? If you decide, then begin now, not tomorrow, not when conditions improve. Take the next small action that aligns with the man you say you want to be. Direct the next thought. Confront the next excuse. Complete the next task. Honor the next promise. Then repeat. In time, you will look back and see that the line you crossed was not imaginary. It was real, and it changed everything. The story of your life will not be that things suddenly became easy. It'll be that you became different. You became deliberate where you were once careless, faithful where you were once fickle, courageous where you were once ruled by fear. And that change, sustained, deep, and honest, is what turns an ordinary existence into a truly good life.